and input. So if anyone would like to either continue asking Sarah questions, or if you have questions for either Noah or Clive, or any other general discussion at this time, we would welcome that input. Don't all rush to the mic at once.
Okay, so we haven't mentioned workforce for some hours. So this is just a general comment, absolutely not aimed at Sarah in any way, but just want to bring this up. So, you know, we have this beautiful new logo of Artemis, and we're putting women on the surface of the moon for the first time. That's great, but I'm not seeing a lot of diversity in the leadership of NASA, right all the way up to the administrator and in that office, and that is a concern to me. And so I just want to throw that out there, and if that becomes a finding or if it's just for everyone's awareness, but I think that certainly the leadership needs to pay some attention to the demographics that, you know, reflect the community of which we're all part right now. So,
I mean, I can't control what happens on the 9th floor, but I will say that Thomas this is a very important thing for Thomas, and that he has put a lot of time and energy and results into making sure that his leadership team has women on it.
Yes, and that is greatly appreciated. I think he's done a fantastic job, but I think it goes even higher than that. And if we are not getting that message up, I think that it's a little bit of a bubble up there. Thanks.
I'm Clark, JPL. So I noticed you didn't talk about, I mean, this is Planetary Science Division, generally speaking, right? So I'm going to say what I said earlier today. I'm sorry to repeat, I don't know if you were here, but the need for a little bit more funding for technology development involving instrumentation and supporting subsystems. Because a lot has changed in the last couple of decades, new materials, new detectors, big breakthroughs in IR detectors, for example. And there's still not a lot of the total budget that's devoted, I think, to this technology development. And the other part of it, which is Planetary is the only division that doesn't have a chance to fly new technologies, a tech demo program specifically. So I just wondered what you might think about something like that, whether there's any chance we might get something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I will point out that, you know, CLIPS is supposed to be high risk, and that we are doing a lot of technology demonstrations on CLIPS. And I think it has afforded us a lot of opportunities to do testing of instruments and technologies. It's not the same thing as a balloons program or whatever, but it is a venue for technology demonstration.
So as your friendly STMD rep, I'll add to that. So I just had a meeting. We have regular meetings with Mike Seablum and Florence Tim. I don't know if either are here from STMD. And they had just mentioned actually that Thomas had just provided them with a challenge that for every SMD mission, they infuse at least one new technology. And we're actually collaborating and setting up regular meetings now where we're driving out the technology pull and the push and how to map those. We have a huge list of candidates that are well on their way to infusion paths. So there's a lot of discussion along those lines.
Let me just ask, adding on to that, do you in SMD talk to SBIR people? I think there's some coordination, but that's another source of funding in a government-wide program where there are resources, and there's certainly mention of technology needs for various capabilities in SBIR, but especially if you need to create new SBIR categories, that would be helpful for the Lunar Initiative. It might be time. I looked at the list recently, and I thought it looked a little dated, especially if you have limited resources and you're spreading the slices of the pie really thin. And so do you talk to SBIR to make sure you have the most recent, latest and greatest
We do. That's
priorities?
Not me, but there is somebody in Planetary. Yeah.
Well, okay. Actually, again, STMD. So STMD is leading all of SBIRs. So we have SMD representation on all the topic creation. But actually in the LSI pitch, that's one reason it was kind of cryptic, but I want to be more explicit about the SBR planning and how we're looking at additional mechanisms right now for infusion, particularly into lunar surface SBRs that would be increased award mounts for sequentials, and then also for the CCRP program, more like DoD and NIH, and the cap goes up. But those are also areas that we're working, like I mentioned, with Mike and Florence and across SMD to make sure that we're infusing, like you said, the timely. I mean, this timeline just changed significantly.
Yeah.
So I think probably the list you're seeing doesn't show some of the updates
Right.
since this
Right.
April timeframe.
Yeah.
But we're absolutely having that dialogue, and SBRs are extremely value added. Yeah.
Got a comment that there are a number of proposals that have gone into SBIR for advanced high performance thermal components, which we've talked about at least 2 or 3 times during this meeting. So that is a good source of looking at what new technologies we could use. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so continuing on the same theme, and I'm not really sure where I'm going, but there, I think is a finding here from LEAG in terms of, the importance of working across all the different mission directorates and stakeholders in order to really accomplish or get the most out of this lunar science program or lunar exploration program and technology development program.
And I don't think you'll get any of us from any of the mission directorates here arguing that we think that that's important. I think we are meeting regularly on various levels, right? But there is always room for improvement. I don't think we would mind a finding on that.
Okay.
One more question. One more question.
Aw.
2 more questions.
Thank you, Claire.
All right, two more questions.
Sam Jimenez, Wex Foundation. With all the opportunities for payload selection, especially with the CLIPS program, is there any chance that you could probably set aside some selection for STEM educated programs, student payloads? Student payload to the moon mission?
There is not currently in our plans, but there's nothing that precludes student payloads at the moment. We don't have any programs specifically focused on them, but most of our calls have allowed student payloads. And it's certainly something that in general as an agency we encourage. We don't have any specific programs for it right now, at least through LDEP, but it's a fair point.
Nick?
Okay. Yeah, Clive Neal, Notre Dame. Just to emphasize the fact, I've seen the breakdown between the stovepiping between SMD, ESMD, STMD, and it's been remarkable to see that evolve. And that's why I try to show that Venn diagram. It's the same data that you're going to use. You hold up LRO. Noah gave a great talk about LRO. That was an exploration mission. It's now returning fantastic science, and they're not new instruments. It's the same instruments giving you the same data being used in a different way. And it's just remarkable to see that effort now starting to permeate with the dialogue that's going on and the interdisciplinary, if you like, programs that are coming out. And I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Clive, are you saying that exploration enables science and science?
No, I'm saying science enables exploration. But I think both of them enable commerce. So.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, Sarah. At this point in our agenda, we are